Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, we're talking about the Timberwolves' three-game win streak, including the blowout win over the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday. Plus, looking ahead to the week, including the Wolves Pelicans on Monday night. What have the Wolves done right over this three-game winning streak that we need to see continue? It's all in the show upcoming today. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. I'm also the co-editor of Dunking with Wolves, the Timberwolves site on the Fansided Network. Thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen each and every day. Remember, the show is free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube, as well as Apple, Google, Spotify, and of course, the all-new Odyssey app. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On T-Wolves and at BBeacon with two B's, two E's, C-K-E-N. Happy Monday. Happy Timberwolves game day. Apologies. We did not do a post-game pod this weekend. I've been a little under weather the last couple of days, so this show's publishing a little bit later on Monday, but we will have the post-game pod tonight following Wolves Pelicans. So I guess two podcasts in a day because we'll get that one posted here before midnight tonight. So hopefully we have a chance to catch up on this, and hopefully Wolves Pels tonight is fantastic. So today on the show, what we're going to do is kind of briefly touch on Wolves Grizzlies from Saturday since we didn't do the post-game pod. I don't want to rehash everything, but just kind of talk key takeaways from that game. And then I want to look at the overall key takeaways over this three-game winning streak. I know it's a modest three-game winning streak, but if you're a Timberwolves fan, every winning streak, even if however modest, is still a winning streak. This is only the second three-game winning streak they've had over the last two seasons, and the first since the last week of April, this past April, 7 months ago or so. And the Wolves had won 4 in a row at that point. But that was their only 3 or more game win streak last season. So far this year, they didn't have any until now. So what has gone right during this 3-game winning streak? And then we'll close with a quick Wolves Pelicans preview here, what to expect on Monday night. All right, let's go ahead and touch on Saturday's game. So Wolves Grizzlies, of course, Minnesota had lost to Memphis roughly 10 days prior, a little over 10 days prior, I guess, in Memphis. That was a Towns buzzer beater at the end of regulation. In a game, the Wolves were up double digits and should have won anyway, but then Towns hit the buzzer beater, it goes to overtime. The Wolves lose in overtime. And it was a hard-fought game. The Grizzlies are one of those teams that was expected to be in with the Wolves battling for kind of the 6, 7, 8 spot in the Western Conference, trying to get out of the play-in, the 7, 8, 9, 10, and try to get to the 6. The Grizzlies, everyone assumed, and everyone still believes that the Grizzlies are better than the Wolves. So this wasn't exactly a slam dunk of a game for Minnesota. Neither team, both team had a day rest. Obviously, it was being played in Minnesota. But this ended up being the largest margin of any game in the entire NBA this season, a 43-point win for the Wolves. No other team all season had won by that many points. And this game was basically over at halftime. Early in the game, the Timberwolves were really aggressive offensively. Towns didn't attempt a three-pointer, I don't think, in the first half at all. Maybe one towards the end of the first half. I don't think he attempted one till the second half. Was just really aggressive going to the basket. Minnesota as a team was aggressive going to the basket. D'Angelo Russell was knocking down threes. Shot the ball a lot better on Saturday than he has really all season. And Minnesota dropped 40 in the first quarter. They expanded their lead. By halftime, they were already up by 29 points, which is insane. And then Minnesota got to the 100-point mark, not even halfway through the third quarter. And I mean, it was at that point, it was definitely over. John Morant didn't score in the first quarter. 0 points in the first quarter. He didn't score until there was 5 minutes left in the second quarter. Patrick Beverley did a fantastic job on him. By the way, Pat Bev was awesome on the offensive glass. He was really good all the way around on Saturday, but on the offensive glass, he had 3 offensive rebounds in the first 6 minutes of the game on Saturday. Pat Bev did, and it really kind of set the tone for the Timberwolves' aggressiveness in the game. A lot of that can be attributed to Beverly's rebounding, to Towns going to the basket. And I would never say that Towns, I don't think it's possible for Towns to shoot too many threes, but it was a nice change of pace to see him going to the basket. And he was getting the ball in the perimeter and driving. It wasn't all post touches. And he only attempted 2 threes on the entire game. I don't think he shot any until the second half. But Minnesota was aggressive going to the basket. They forced the officials to call fouls, and the Grizzlies ended up shooting 7 more free throws than the Wolves in this one. But the Wolves were up 100 to 55 with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. 100-55. That's like the score you would see if, like, I don't know, like, Kentucky. Well, that's not a good example this year. If like Gonzaga played like, Sacred Heart or something like that, some, tiny D1 school, that would be the final, 100-55. This is an NBA game between two teams that have playoff aspirations, and it was 100-55 midway through the third quarter. The entire fourth quarter was garbage time. We got to see Lando Balmaro. We saw 7 minutes of him. We saw 9 minutes of Nathan Knight. He was really good. 6 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists in 9 minutes for Knight. All the way around, Minnesota was great. And if I was going to do quick studs or duds in this game, and it's weird because nobody played more than 27 minutes, D'Angelo Russell was awesome. 28 points on 15 shots for D'Lo, 4 of 9 outside the arc, got to the line 9 times. And I should have looked this up, but that's got to be about the most he's ever gotten to the line in his Timberwolves career. He's not known for getting to the free throw line, but 28 points on 15 shots, including 4 made threes and 6 made free throws for D'Lo, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, 4 rebounds. He was a plus 34 in 27 minutes. D'Angelo Russell was awesome. Karl-Anthony Towns very good as well. 21 points on 15 shots in just 24 minutes. He only had 5 rebounds, but he had 2 assists, a steal, and a block, so he would also get a stud. And then Anthony Edwards. He hit 5 threes, and I believe they were all in the first quarter. He had 23 points on 8 of 10 shooting, 5 of 6 outside the arc, only attempted 2 free throws, but that's about as efficient as you're going to see Anthony Edwards, 23 on 10 shots in a fantastic game. And just because why not? Honorable mention, Jared Vanderbilt, 5 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. He was a monster. He was playing like a man possessed on Saturday, was all over the floor. But Vando, I mean, is such a big part of what this team does. And one of the main reasons that the Timberwolves are, top 5 still in steals and blocks per game, and that their defense is 11th in the league in defensive rating, defensive efficiency overall. Just a well-rounded game, both ends of the floor. Memphis didn't want any part of it. Again, Ja Morant, no points in the first quarter. He finished with just 11 points on 9 shots. Steven Adams was only played 18 minutes, had 6 points. Desmond Bane was really good. He was about the only guy that came to play. Oh, I guess Tyus Jones always likes playing in Minnesota. Those two guys were the only ones that really came to play for Memphis in this game. Brandon Clark was such a hero for them the last time when they beat the Wolves. He had like 18 or 20 points late in that game. He only had 3 points in 18 minutes in this one. Okay, so what I want to do next is take like a half step backwards, look at the last 3 games in their totality, the San Antonio and Sacramento games mid last week, and then this Memphis game from Saturday. And what have the Wolves done best over the course of the last 5-6 days or so? We're gonna do that next. First, though, let's talk about Prize Picks. All right, NBA fanatics, have you heard about Prize Picks? Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. I love it, and I know you will too. Prize Picks is the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. Prize Picks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator and offers all the superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. Prize Picks offers any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown, all the basketball props you'd expect. Any users that deposit and use our promo code will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. That promo code is NBA. So again, promo code NBA, you get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You just pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. Plus, you can do mixed sport entries. So, for instance, you can take the over on Karl-Anthony Towns points scored combined with the under on Kirk Cousins interceptions in the same entry if you wanted to do that. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use promo code NBA or go to your App Store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Let's also talk about DirecTV. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment that you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part is that there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Okay, let's go ahead and take our half step backwards and look at the last week or so as a whole. Again, the only the second win streak of 3 or more games over the past 2 seasons. So you'd be going back more than 18 months if you're going to try and find another one. And their first 3-game winning streak of this season. And I mean, sure, the Timberwolves played Sacramento on Wednesday. They've since fired their coach, Luke Walton, fired him over the weekend. They played San Antonio Thursday. They were 4-10, I believe, coming into the game, but they're a good defensive team, and the Wolves hung 115 points on them on Thursday. And then Saturday, the Memphis Grizzlies, who were a couple games above 500 and are a good team. But overall, like, you got to beat who you play, right? And the Wolves had the Pelicans now on Monday night. They've already lost the Pelicans once. They lost to the Magic, right? I mean, you'd rather beat them than lose to them. So we can talk about the strength of schedule all we want, but you still got to beat the teams that are in front of you on the schedule. And if you can do so convincingly, even better. So the number one thing the Wolves have done well over the past few days is improving their three-point shooting. Coming to the game against the Kings last Wednesday, the Timberwolves were first in the league in three-point attempts per game. I think hovering right around kind of that 40 mark, but they were number 24 in three-point shooting percentage. Now, only 3 games later, the Timberwolves are up to number 16 in percentage. They've jumped 8 spots through just 3 games, 34.2% from deep as a team. They're still first in the league, just a shade under 43 three-point attempts per game. But I mean, I've talked about this on the show forever. I tweeted about it last week. I think during the Spurs game, maybe it's the Kings game. This Timberwolves team has too many good three-point shooters for them to be a bottom 6 three-point shooting team, collectively as a team. Karl-Anthony Towns, Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, these guys are all 38+% career three-point shooters. If you include this year, I mean, Towns is just a hair under 40%. But Pat Bev and Malik Beasley both are essentially 38, 39% three-point shooters. D'Angelo Russell and Taurean Prince each had career highs last year in three-point shooting percentage. D'Lo's always been a little above average, and Prince mostly has. But last year, D'Lo shot 38.7% on threes, and Taurean Prince shot 40% last year, which was a career high. So you could expect a little regression, but these guys can obviously shoot. So it didn't make any sense for this team to be struggling so much from outside the arc. And part of it was the offense was so clunky, but they were also just missing open shots when they got the opportunity. And really, everybody in the lineup, sans Josh Okogie and Jared Vanderbilt, can shoot at least league average from 3. I mean, even Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Jordan McLaughlin, these are all guys you would expect to shoot at least 33, 34% from 3. And, if the volume's too high, they're going to drag down your overall percentage. But as long as that's not the case, there's no excuse for the Wolves to not be a top 10, 12 three-point percentage or three-point shooting team by percentage, not simply by attempts. So that's number one. Number two, the defense that we spent so much time talking about has not regressed. In fact, check this out. In case you hadn't noticed, 5 out of the last 6 opponents that the Wolves have faced have scored under 100 points. Under 100 points, 5 out of the last 6. I mean, you go back and look a couple years ago. I remember in the Tibbs era, I think it was even the playoff year, the Timberwolves held back-to-back opponents under 100, and it was amazing. It was crazy. And now it's suddenly the norm. And obviously the defense is what kept this team afloat early in the season. We're still early, but the first 3-4 weeks, the offense was so bad. And it was all about the defense. The Timberwolves were leading the league in steals and blocks per game, turnover rate, opponent turnover rate, all that stuff. But they're still doing it. They're number 4 in steals per game, number 4 in blocks per game, number 2 in opponent turnover rate. So they're turning their opponents over at a better rate than 28 other teams in the league. And overall, defensive rating wise, according to Basketball Reference's version of the metric, they're number 11 in the league in defensive rating. It's just phenomenal. And the individual efforts of, we knew that Jaden McDaniels and Jared Vanderbilt were going to be good, and Patrick Beverley were going to be good individual defenders. We saw Vando do a good job against Giannis in the win against the Bucks way back several weeks ago. We've seen McDaniels take on some really difficult assignments. Patrick Beverley on John Morant on Saturday is a good example, but he'll often draw the assignment to guard the opposing team's point guard now that he's been in the starting lineup with D'Lo. Josh Okogie, when healthy, has been very good defensively. Those guys have all more than held up their end of the bargain, and it's super important. But it's the guys you wouldn't expect. It's the much maligned individual defenders like a D'Lo or a Malik Beasley, who for their careers have been clear minuses in that end of the floor. But the gap between awful and average a lot of times can be just as big, if not greater, than the gap between average and great or fantastic or outstanding, right? So just simply being passable when it comes to point of attack defense, because the scheme's been updated. I've talked a lot about this on the show, playing at the level of the screener, having the big play at the level of the screener instead of in drop coverage. That combined with solid point of attack defense from the guards have really helped the Timberwolves with this, just have a phenomenal defense. I mean, a good showing against the Pelicans on Monday, which, I mean, let's be honest, they should be able to shut down the Pelicans. This could be a top 10 defense as we head into the middle part of the week. So really impressive. I want to get into a couple areas. This is a topic for another show. We'll probably do this midweek this week, but I want to talk about a couple areas where the Wolves have been struggling defensively. And if they clean these up, could they be a top 5 defense? But anyway, the defense not regressing is number 2 on my list of a big successes over the past few games. And then the third thing is, and this is a little bit more obvious, and maybe it's chicken or the egg, I guess, but the big 3 playing up to their potential, basically. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards. Yes, the team will go how they goes, or the team will go how they go, right? That's obvious. So if they're winning, you would expect that they're playing well. But I think it's important to point out just how much better they've been playing of late. Towns has averaged just a hair under 23 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block and a half a game, shooting over 60% from the field over this win streak and 50% from 3. Anthony Edwards is shooting 53.3% from the field and 50% from outside the arc over this 3-game stretch. D'Angelo Russell, the biggest thing with him is he's getting to the free throw line. Over the first 11 games of the season, D'Lo was only getting to the free throw line 2.4 times per game, which is not far off from what he does for his career. But over the last 3 games, D'Lo has attempted 6.7 free throws per game, and he's making 80% of them. So if D'Lo is just a little more aggressive, if he's keeping teams honest by trying to take them off the dribble instead of simply shooting threes, it opens everything up a little bit more. Ant is kind of, he has these games like Saturday where 6 of his 10 shot attempts are from outside the arc, and then there were a couple of games before that where he was just getting in the paint every time. Towns was attacking on Saturday. I think that trio, if they can continue to show their versatility on offense and not just simply play iso ball, the your turn, my turn thing we talked about on the show the last couple of weeks. I mean, this is what we expected to see. And then those ancillary parts like, Malik Beasley knocking down open threes makes such a big difference. Pat Bev, same thing. And he's even done a little bit more scoring than he typically has in his career. But if those guys can carry their weight and hold up their end of the bargain, I mean, if this offense can catch up to the defense, we're talking about a really impressive team. Okay. I want to close the show by doing a quick preview of Wolves and Pelicans on Monday night and what to expect between Wolves Pelicans. We're going to do that next. First, though, before we get into that, let's talk about our friends over at Built Bar. Now, it's Thanksgiving week. I love Thanksgiving. I'm sure you love Thanksgiving as well. All the good food and treats and plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and just 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. Replace the coconut cream pie with coconut Built Bar or go for a raspberry Built Bar instead of that raspberry pie. Lots of good flavors to replace any pie. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, and high protein covered in 100% real chocolate. Built is a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, well, it is just later this week. Go ahead and go for a Built Bar or 2. Share some at your family gatherings. It makes things less awkward. And maybe Aunt Betty hasn't tried a Built Bar yet. New surprises all month. Limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly. So check this site often. There's nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar this coming Friday. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, let's talk Wolves Pels. So Minnesota and New Orleans have played twice this year already. And neither was a particularly aesthetically pleasing game, if you'll recall. The Timberwolves won the first one. It was their second game of the season, started the year 2-0, and had an opportunity to go 3-0, taking on the Pels in that following Monday. That was when it was Wolves Pelicans on Saturday and Monday. The Pelicans stayed in town, and both games were ugly. The first one, the Timberwolves won by 7. The second one, and that was a 96-89 final. The offense struggled, but the defense was good. The next time out on Monday, the Timberwolves lost 107-98 in a game that they trailed at halftime. They were down 9 and got it within 5 at the start of the fourth quarter, but could never quite come all the way back. Brandon Ingram was very good in that game. He struggled in the first game between the two. Brandon Ingram had 27 and 9. Jonas Valanciunas was fantastic. 22 points, 23 rebounds, really gave Towns trouble. And Towns had a big game too in the loss. He had 32 and 14 with 7 assists in that game. But unfortunately, D'Angelo Russell shot 3 of 14. He had just 9 points. It was one of his worst games of the season. And Anthony Edwards had 28 on 23 shots, had a solid game overall. It was just and Malik Beasley shot 1 of 8, 1 of 7 outside the arc. So an uncharacteristically bad offensive night from both D'Lo and Malik Beasley. Now, of course, that was kind of a theme more than it was, it's more the feature than it was the bug over the first 3-4 weeks of the season, I guess. But again, like we just talked about last segment, if the Timberwolves can keep things like they have during this 3-game winning streak, there's no reason they can't beat these Pelicans. The Pelicans have only won 3 times all season. They are 3-15, I believe. 3-15. One of their 3 wins coming against the Timberwolves. Let's see if I can pull up their, let's see here. And they actually just beat the Clippers the other day. They beat the Clippers earlier this week. They also beat the Grizzlies once this year. Those are their only 3 wins. At one point, they lost 9 straight games, and then beat the Grizzlies, lost 2, beat the Clippers, and then lost to the Pacers last time out. And for the most part, it's not like they're playing teams close. I mean, you look at their schedule, they don't have really any. I think they have one possession loss all season. Everything else is multiple possession losses. They're obviously don't have Zion Williamson back. That's the most obvious thing. And then lately, Devontae Graham's missed some time, which hurts them clearly. But for the most part, besides missing Zion, you would expect this team to be a little bit more competitive. To this point in the season, they're 29th in defensive rating. So the Timberwolves their offense should be able to stay healthy. They're 26th in offensive rating. The Pelicans are, and they just have not been good on either end of the floor. They're 25th in 3-point attempts per game. They're last in 2-point field goal percentage. They've really struggled to score the ball inside the arc, and they're really, I mean, they don't have very many strengths at this point. They are a good defensive rebounding team, or really on both ends of the floor, defensive and offensive. The Timberwolves are a good offensive rebounding team, but they're still last in defensive rebounding. The Timberwolves are league wide. The Pelicans actually grab almost 10% more of available defensive rebounds over the course of a game than the Timberwolves do, which is insane. So second chance points and also, for both teams are going to loom really large in this one. Although if the offense plays up to what we've come accustomed to over the past few days, then it shouldn't be an issue. Hopefully Josh Okogie comes back. He was questionable before Saturday's game again, and he is listed as day-to-day still. He can come back and play. I would think he draws the Brandon Ingram assignment for at least part of the game. Jaden McDaniels will get it most of the time, of course. And it'll be good to have Patrick Beverley then guard, the likes of, Devontae Graham's probably not going to play. But Josh Hart has had a pretty good season so far, shooting over 40% from 3. Kyrie Lewis Jr. off the bench, the second-year guard. He's another player that the Timberwolves will have to keep an eye on that can get hot. So certainly a winnable game, certainly a game that the Timberwolves should win. And it is in New Orleans. I should point that out. The Timberwolves are back on the road now for the first time in a little bit over a week. So peeking ahead at the rest of this week for the Timberwolves. After the Pels game on Monday night, the Timberwolves are, make sure I'm not going to guess. I'm going to get this right. The Timberwolves are back home to take on Miami on Wednesday. That's Thanksgiving Eve. Timberwolves versus Miami from Target Center. Thanksgiving off, of course. And then Friday, they're at Charlotte. So at New Orleans, home for the Heat, at Charlotte, and then back-to-back at Philadelphia on Saturday. So, I mean, if the Wolves can split those 4 games, I think they'd feel pretty good about that. Obviously, being the Pelicans and the Hornets are the more realistic ones, although the Hornets have been very good this year. But I think if they split those 4 games, everybody would feel pretty good about that. The Hornets are, they just won 5 in a row before they lost to Atlanta. They're now 10-8 this year. So some exciting games coming up. We'll get to see LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards take on one another later this week. We'll, of course, see Jimmy Butler and the Heat on Wednesday. So we'll do a post-game pod after tonight's game, after Wolves Pels, and then we'll have a post-game pod following the Heat game on Wednesday. We'll probably take one day off during the week here for Thanksgiving, but try and do all the regular game coverage and all that good stuff that you all are very used to. Thank you for making Locked On Wolves, by the way, your first listen, hopefully also your favorite listen each and every day. Remember, the show is free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube, as well as Apple, Google, Spotify, and the all-new Odyssey app. You can also follow on Twitter at Locked On T-Wolves and at Beecken with 2 B's, 2 E's, C-K-E-N. That's all we have for you today. Thanks once again for listening to the Locked On Wolves podcast. Of course, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.